it's Carly Burr and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking a bit about seeking validation online and how to kind of move away from that mindset, because this topic actually came from one of my friends who subscribed to my letter to the offline diaries, and he was also a member of my community offline. He shared with me something that sparked the idea for this episode. He said, how can we get out of the mindset to need to prove something to people online and seek validation? And he said that's one of the main reasons that he stays on social media, even though he's working towards not being there anymore. That is one of the main reasons that he stays or has stayed. And I've actually heard this quite a bit, and I actually kind of understand this because I think that it's something within all of us, the need to be seen, which is how I kind of interpret and see people seeking validation and, wanting to share their achievements throughout life. And it's interesting because the need to be seen, I think, is just a need of us humans, is to be seen. And I think that a lot of us don't receive that, unfortunately, through our lives, whether that's because of how we've decided to live on social media in our society, or whether that's just because we don't have the type of relationships that are strong enough to be able to talk about the things that will help us feel seen. I don't know exactly what it is, but I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about when we were children and how this has kind of always been a thing, at least in my experience. We want the people who we care about, or the people in our lives, to see our achievements. Like going right back to the beginning, when we were in elementary school, we come home, we want to show our parents the score that we got on our test, we want to show them our report card, we want to show them the wonderful thing that we did, if we did something good. And that's another interesting part, because social media is highlight reels. So we want to share the achievements, we want to share the successes. Rarely do we go on there and share the failures or share the hard times that got us to the achievement. Like back to the kids, when we came home and shared the report card, we weren't excited to share the failed grade that we got on our report card. We weren't going to go home and be like, Mom, look, I got an F. But we're going to be like, Mom, look, I got an A. So it's interesting because social media is a lot of highlight reels, a lot of sharing the successes, a lot of sharing the good times, but it doesn't put the emphasis on the struggles and on the failures that happen throughout life, which is interesting because obviously it would be pretty depressing to log onto your Instagram and scroll through a bunch of failure stories or a bunch of depressing, hard things going through people's lives. But then I think, well, would it be depressing? Because is it any less depressing to go on Instagram and scroll through a bunch of highlight reels when you're sitting in a time of difficulty and a time of failure, and you're sitting there going, wow, everyone else's life looks so great, mine really sucks? Is that any less depressing? I don't know. I'm not saying that I think everyone needs to share their failures. I don't think that that's the case, but I think that in the failures and in the hard times and in the struggle, that's where we develop. That's where we have breakthroughs. That's where we really become, and that's where a lot of transformation happens, and that's where I think we should be receiving the praise for making it through that time. I mean, we come and share the outcome, we share the success, we share the wonderful thing that happened, and then that's where you get the, oh, good job, that was amazing, look how far you've come, look how wonderful you are. When I think that the people who really care about you and who are part of your life would hopefully be able to see you through the struggle and through the failure and see how you got out of it and came to the other side. And that's the part that should be celebrated, not necessarily this outcome that we want to flash to the world, because they didn't see what happened behind the scenes. And I don't think that they should see what happened behind the scenes. I think that we need to relearn or learn for the first time, I don't know, how to first validate ourselves in our successes and in our achievements, because I think that's going to be the most fulfilling thing for us. And I won't speak for everyone, because I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all answer for how to be seen in your life in a way that's fulfilling for you. I think you have to figure that out yourself. But I like to share because I have found that people sharing their experiences, people sharing what has worked for them, has sparked something in my head of how I can either apply into my life or given me an idea of something that might work for me. So that is my goal here. Not to tell you, this is what I've done and this will work for you too. This is me saying this is what I've done, and I hope that me sharing this encourages, inspires you to do something or figure out in your own way in your life what will be best for you. I wanted to share a perspective that could be maybe a shift for you. when I think about, okay, how do we stop seeking validation? How do we kind of shift this mindset about wanting to seek this validation or this recognition online from the world? And I want you to think about when you see someone's success or you see someone's achievement online, what is your initial response to that? Hopefully you feel happy for them. Hopefully you are excited for the success that they've achieved in their life. But then what happens? You scroll past their post and you're on to the next highlight reel of the next person. Unless for some reason that first one that you saw or that specific person you have some tie to or some competition maybe even with, I don't know. But usually you'll just scroll past and you don't really think about that person or their achievement again. You're on to the next person. It doesn't really hold much space in your mind much past those couple of seconds that you see their thing or that you double tap on the screen. So if that's the case, why would you be any different? Why would you posting up your success, you posting up how far you've come, really mean much to the person on the other side, unless there's someone who's important to you in your life or who maybe you have competition with, like I said before. But my point in saying that is that I think if we can share our successes, if we can share how far we've come with the people in our lives offline, it'll be much more fulfilling because we can actually have a conversation around it rather than just seeing it for a moment and then moving on. And then the person on the side of receiving the recognition through like the tap or through the comment. The feeling that you'll get from having an actual conversation is much more fulfilling than what you'll get through the screen. Sometimes I think it's us going after, how we're going to feel after so-and-so sees our post. And I'm serious, ask yourself if there's one specific person who you want to see this thing. Are you posting this with the intention that so-and-so will see this, so-and-so will see how far I've come, I can prove them wrong, or I can show them this. Maybe you don't have a specific person, but think about that. Who am I really wanting to see this and why? Why am I putting so much stake in how they feel about me? Why am I putting so much control on their side into my feelings and how I'm going to feel? That's not really fair. We shouldn't be giving them that much control over how we feel. I feel like we need to get back to being able to, like I said, validate ourselves first and then be able to go to the people who are in our lives offline and be able to have relationships where we can share these things without coming across as braggy, because this is something that I will share I am working on right now. It is hard for me to talk about myself. With my husband, I can talk about myself all day because we have that relationship. I can share with him what I'm excited about, what I'm working on, my highlights. And he also sees everything in between because he's my husband. We live together. He's my best friend. But it's easy for me in that sense. But I think about someone else who doesn't maybe have that type of relationship with their spouse, someone else who isn't in a relationship, or someone else who is just trying to cultivate that with other family members or friends. And that's where I'm at too. Outside of my husband, I really do struggle, even with my family members, to share my achievements. And I will say that one of the reasons I don't feel like I really need to is because I have my husband who also fulfills the role of best friend in my life. And so that is fulfilling for me. The fact that he is aware and he knows is fulfilling to me. But I'm trying really hard to share more about what matters to me and what I'm working on without having the mindset that I am bragging or I'm conceited. Because that's an honest thought in my head. I'm like, if someone says, Carly, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm good, things are just same old, same old. I kind of just keep it brief like that rather than going into why I am good, why I feel this way, and going into more detail, because really I think they're asking me to share what I've been up to. And so it's been kind of a struggle to start talking about myself. I just had this conversation last week with someone and she was like, I feel like you never really wanted to talk about what you're doing. I feel like you kind of just always kind of brush over it, and I've just never asked you because I feel like you didn't want to talk about it. And then on my side, I'm saying, well, I never told you because you never asked me directly, and I didn't want to just start talking about myself. But anyway, the point of me sharing that is I'm really trying to, when someone asks, share a little bit more, because I think about when the situation is flipped. I think about a family member or a friend who comes to me and I ask them, how are you doing? I want them to tell me all the things. I want them to tell me what they're proud of that they've done, or I want them to tell me about the struggle. I want them to tell me all the things without me having to ask. And when they do, I don't sit there and think, wow, you're bragging or you're conceited. Not at all. That's never a thought in my head. I just make this up that that's what they might be thinking when it comes from me. And that's something that I'm trying to get over and trying to really work through actively right now in my life. But I think that we need to have these uncomfortable conversations. And I call it uncomfortable because when it's something that I'm not used to doing, maybe you experience this too, it feels uncomfortable. But I've learned that through the discomfort is where the better relationship lies on the other side, where everything I'm really wanting is on the other side of the uncomfortable action that I have to take. So having the uncomfortable conversation is, I think, what we need to do to be able to build our relationships up to a place where we feel like we can receive that validation through the people in our lives offline, rather than having to go online and seek it from the people there, because that is the easy thing to do. That is the easy way to receive the recognition that gives us a little bit, that we feel good about what we've done, but doesn't give us enough to keep us fulfilled. So we keep going back and posting more so that we can receive that again. So how can we build up our lives offline in a way where we don't need that validation? And that's kind of the emphasis that I'm putting here. And if you are a religious person, this will probably land with you. But another thing that helps me feel seen offline is my relationship with God. Knowing that He is seeing all things that I'm doing or have done. Knowing that He's proud of how far I've come and who I'm becoming. And I honestly find so much peace and so much fulfillment and so much seeing in that as well. So if you're religious, that might land with you, and that has been super helpful in me in being offline and feeling validated and feeling seen without feeling the need to, obviously I don't have social media, so I don't post anything up about my life online. So how do we shift from this mindset of seeking the validation online or needing to be seen online? How do we fulfill that in a way that is offline so we don't need social media to fulfill that need for us? I believe that learning to be content with your choices and with your decisions that are shaping the outcome of your life and something that you're really proud of, instead of needing to share that with the world, being able to see that yourself and really pat yourself on the back for how far you've come and what you've achieved. And then knowing that God sees how far you've come and He sees the amazing, incredible thing that you've done for yourself, for your life, or for others. And then having relationships in real life where we can go and where we can share with the people who we care about and hopefully have them share with us too. So maybe they won't feel the need to go online and share the things so much either. I think that will ultimately really help us be able to shift this mindset of feeling like we have to receive this validation online that honestly is so surface, honestly is so empty and does not last for very long. Something that you might find interesting is that I think if you can separate yourself from it for long enough, meaning if you can take yourself away from social media for an extended period of time, you will start to see things a bit differently. I think about where I view, how I view Instagram specifically, or social media in general, as someone who does not share my life there, as someone who does not consume others' lives there. When you see it from an outside perspective, it really is kind of nauseating. And I don't say that to come across as I have figured out a better way. I say that as when you really do create some space from this thing, it's kind of like a toxic boyfriend. Okay, you're in this relationship, you are in love with this person. Or maybe it's a toxic relationship that you're in love with this person. But you can't see the damage that is being done. You can't see all the horrible things that this person is doing because you kind of have blinders up because you're so in love. The love is blinding you to the horrible things this person is doing or saying to you, or how they're manipulating you. I feel like that's kind of what social media looks like from my point of view. I'm no, it's not what it's all cracked up to be. I promise if you can give yourself space from it, you'll be able to see that that's not what it appears to be. So from my point of view, and how I see this from this perspective, I feel like if you can give yourself space, that really does begin to fade. And you start to see it as if, whoa, that validation I was seeking, that doesn't actually that doesn't actually feel as great as I might have thought it felt. And it looks a little bit odd when you see it from an outside perspective. I'm just being honest with how I feel. And I'm not the only person who said this. I talk to people in my community who give themselves space as well. And it's a real thing. You start to see things differently when you can create the space between the toxic relationship. You can't see it when you're in it, but when you've separated yourself, you start to see things for what they are or what they were. So to Michael and to anyone else out there who had this exact same question on their heart, I hope this video was helpful. I hope that it sparked some sort of action for you to take in your head, or sparked some sort of insight into yourself on what you can do to start building your life offline in a way that fulfills this need to be seen. Because I absolutely know that it's possible, and I believe in you and your ability to figure this out for yourself. I've figured it out for myself, and I've built my relationship with my husband to be able to fulfill that need for me 150%, and I'm actively working on doing this in my other relationships as we speak right now. So let's do this together and we can figure it out. I have absolutely no doubt. So with that, my action step to take today, if you don't already have one for yourself, is to have the uncomfortable conversation, to reach out to the person that you want to cultivate deeper connection with, or to talk to your spouse, or to take the first step that you need to take to making a new friend. Start having the uncomfortable conversation now so that you can work on getting to a place where it's no longer uncomfortable and where your relationship is deeper and stronger than ever before, more fulfilling, and you are feeling seen in your life offline, and you don't feel the need to be seen by the folks online who probably don't really care about you and who you don't even really care about them. So that is my take on how we can shift this mindset of seeking the validation, seeking the recognition from people online, and how we can fulfill that for ourselves offline. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed today's video, I was going to say episode because I'm used to doing podcasts. If you enjoyed today's video, you'd probably enjoy my podcast, which is called Taking Life Offline. And it is where I talk about the same topics I talk about here, but just a little bit differently and a little bit deeper, usually in depth on the topics. So if you're wanting to get off of social media, maybe YouTube is the one for you that you're like, I waste too much time here, I want to be off, but you enjoy these types of conversations and this thing that we are pushing forward here in this movement to live life offline, then listen to the podcast. You don't have to be on social media, but you can still be part of our community of us who are striving to embrace life offline. I will also leave a link in the description to this video for you to join my free community offline so we can support you in your efforts to live your life more offline. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will catch you next Monday.